Hey everyone, Dr. Zio here again, and today we're here to talk about Power Rangers Dino Fury episode. That's not. No, episode 20. There we go. Hey, we're back with the numbers. Power Rangers Dino Fury episode 20 Waking Nightmares. Yo, this was a good episode. This was. No. It was a great episode. Uh. This is gonna be a long one because a lot happened in this episode. But yeah, let's get right into it. As always, summary, likes, no dislikes for this episode. Well, a minor complaint, but not really dislike. Conclusion and question of the week. Let's get right into it. So this doesn't really have like a person it focuses on. I guess you could say it kind of focuses on Zado and Ion to an extent. They have the most screen time and the most relevance to the plot in this episode. But essentially, what's happening here is that the Rangers have unearthed the two Dino keys that were buried beneath Dino Henge. They were the Light and the Shadow Dino keys. So using the Light and Shadow Dino keys, they combine to form a Cosmic Key. That Cosmic Key can open up portals, black holes to anywhere you want to go. So they use it to not to go to Ravcon, of course not, but they use it to go get the Light and Shadow Raptorzords, which are on another planet called Nibiru. We'll address that here in just a second. But eventually, they get to Nibiru, or Zado gets to Nibiru, and he finds the other Ravcon Knights who end up attacking him. Portal closes. The Rangers aren't able to get to Nibiru to save Zado. And then, then Dr. Akana calls them. Dr. Akana, she's over here performing some, some tests on the statues over at Dino Henge. She finds out, and she gets like this conductor, right? And plugs it into like a device that's connected to the Mosa statue. And it conducts energy. Well, it opens up a portal to the morphing grid above them, and that sends energy into the Mosa statue, which is then conducted into the thing that Dr. Akana has plugged into it. Ion uses that to kind of power up that Cosmic Key again, so you can open the portal, hop into it, and go save Zado. Meanwhile, the others stay behind, and they get called because Boom Tower's back. I was happy about this. Boom Tower's cool. I like his puns. He's great. But Boom Tower is back with mucuss to follow the Rangers' plans, and I guess Void Knight had seen what the Rangers were doing at Dino Henge, so he figured, okay, I can use that energy source instead of the Sporks. I won't need that anymore. So he uses Boom Tower and mucuss as a distraction, which goes pretty well actually. He ends up stealing Dr. Akana's equipment by the end of the episode. But anyway, back on Nibiru, we're having a fight between Zado and Zado, Ion, and the Ancient Rangers, or Zado's team. That fight ends up, they end up figuring out that the Ancient Rangers are actually their own nightmares. Zado and Ion's own nightmares. They end up saying this phrase that the six of them used to say back in the day, and that proves. Well, that stops the Ancient Rangers. They dissipate and reform into the Guardian of Nibiru. I guess the Guardian of Nibiru is like this giant orb of whatever, maybe energy, and he kind of uses people's nightmares against them when they're on Nibiru so that he can kind of protect his planet. He tells them, okay, I'll help you find the twin Zords, the Light and Shadow Zords. So Zado gets a message from Solon that, your team needs your help, you need to get back here ASAP. So Zado leaves Ion back on Nibiru and goes back to Earth to go help out the Rangers. Ion retrieves the Zords, goes back to go help the other Rangers, and they end up beating Boom Tower in a nice little Megazord battle. Then they go back to Dino Henge and find out, oh no, Void Knight stole Dr. Akana's equipment. This is bad. We have to figure out what he wants and get that stuff back. And that's the end of the episode. So, nice little short summary there, but let's talk about what I liked about this episode. The first thing I liked about this episode was that the cinematography here was really, really good. The episode starts with like a nice little zoom in to where Ion's sleeping. And like he has like in his bedroom, he has like a window that kind of points out to another section of the ship. And so the camera kind of zooms in, and then we just see Ion sleeping there. He's having a nightmare of the final battle that they had against the Sports Beast way back when, 65 million years ago. And we get like a little bit of insight into what happened in that battle. And of course, Zado stays fucking up. The other Ancient Rangers tell him, the Sports Beasts are too strong, the Megazords can't handle all this stuff. And so Zado's like, okay, what we'll do is we'll tap into some unstable morphin energy to form a new Ultrazord. And he's like, are you guys with me? And they're like, yeah, let's do it. So they form the Ultrazord that we saw in Ion's last flashback. We pick up there. We see them use the Ultrazord's beam attack. I guess the unstable morphin energy made that beam a little bit too powerful, so it kind of backfired on them or overloaded the Ultrazord, but that ends up blowing up and Ion and Zado ejecting. And this more or less confirms that they believe that the Ancient Rangers are dead, not just lost, but actually that they didn't make it out of that explosion alive, which is interesting. It's good to get that kind of confirmation without them actually being able to say that we think that they're actually dead. Power Rangers has this weird thing about not actually saying die or dead. It's happened a few times, but it's not often enough. They're really vague about this kind of stuff. But yeah, the cinematography in that, and then the cinematography in the scene where they're just kind of in the ship back 65 million years ago was really nice. It's really dark, and the way it's kind of dimly lit, which is beautiful. Then we also see, once Ion wakes up, he goes to, I guess get a glass of water or something like that, and he runs into Zado, who's also getting a glass of water. He's coming back from, I presume, the kitchen in the ship, and Ion says, Ion's like, yeah, I was having a nightmare, and it was of the final battle, and Zado's like, yeah, I have those too, a lot. And it's like, oh, like Zado doesn't really talk. Zado hasn't talked about his past. It's interesting that my man's having nightmares about this. And Ion even brings up the fact that, do you think that, if we had made a different decision back then, that our old teammates would still be alive? And Zado completely dodges the question, says, hey, we have to wake up. We have to wake up in the morning early to go help Dr. Akana dig up the Dino keys. We should probably get to sleep. And it is a nice and subtle way of showing that, yes, these two people have PTSD over at last battle. Zado especially, because he had a direct cause in those people dying. He had a direct cause in the destruction of Ravcon or whatever, the Sports Beast attacking Ravcon. He had a say in the Sports Beast being released. He had a say in the Ravconians, or sorry, the Ancient Rangers of him utilizing that untapped Morphogrid energy to form the new Ultrazord. He also had a say, more or less, in whether or not he used his Dino Dagger to try and attack Void Knight in the first episode, which that obviously backfired and got the Sporks released. Like, Zado has got a lot on his plate. Like, this man stays fucking up time and time again. And I really do wonder if this is all going to culminate in something where he kind of finally blows up and we have a very emotional moment with him just not being able to take it anymore and kind of reflecting on on how his actions have led everybody to this specific moment. Because I would really like that. But so far what we have right now is just really, really good. Like, I really enjoy them being able to address the fact that these people have PTSD. It's not really something I expected to see out of this. Keeping to the cinematography, the look of Nibiru was also really good. Like, the Quarry kind of like had this tannish look to it, which is different than the grayish look we usually have to these Quarries. And I don't know, I think we haven't seen this Quarry since we moved to New Zealand, or at least in the Nyx season, starting with Samurai. I don't know if we saw them with was it half of Wild, well, not half of Wild Force, Ninja Storm through RPM. I don't recall if we've seen this Quarry before, between that era. but I definitely don't think we've seen them for the Nick era. And it's such a refreshing change of pace. It looks different. It feels different. Like it evoked a feel. Like this whole kind of pseudo cosmic journey evoked a feeling of Power Rangers in space, and I loved it. The fact that they actually have to go and the fact that they had to earn their Megazord was great. Well, the Zords was great. I love it when the Rangers have to do something to earn their Zords, especially if it's them going out on a journey of some sort. I eat that stuff up. Like it made me happy. It made me so happy, especially because I just really want to go back into space. Like I want another space themed season. It doesn't look like we're gonna get that anytime soon, unless they adapt whatever's next, maybe Cure Major, and change it to like a space themed season. It's always possible. But yeah, I've been wanting a space season again since the end of Lost Galaxy, and since SPD, when it seemed like the promos were gonna give us like a space season. But I would love to go back into space, and this gave me that feeling I haven't gotten since Lost Galaxy and In Space, because we're going on that otherworldly journey. I was so happy here. I was really happy. It was great. But back to the cinematography here, there were also some little whitish towers in the distance, kind of like in the far off shots at the top of the quarry, and then at the bottom of the quarry too. I think it was only just two towers, but I was surprised by how alien it made the planet feel, because we haven't seen those kind of structures in Pine Ridge so far. So it did a lot to make it feel like a different location without spending a whole lot of the budget and to add different vegetation and alien creatures and all the other kind of stuff you would typically expect to see on an alien planet. And that was good. Props to the prop department, props to everyone, the set designers and everyone else involved in this. Y'all made some good choices. Y'all made some really good choices. But yeah, the fights were also good in this episode. The fights between Zado, Ion, and the Ancient Rangers, the cinematography was good. The last two episodes I complained about, the fights being too flashy, and you can't really appreciate the actual choreography that goes into those fights. But that didn't happen in this episode. Yes, the fights were flashy, but they didn't feature a lot of those special effects we've gotten in these past few episodes. So it was easy to see, who was throwing the strikes. It was easy to really appreciate all the work that went into crafting this fight. And they also used some wire work in the fight as well, and they used some asymmetric angles, where not like top down, but kind of off to like if this is a person, the camera's like over here, so it's kind of looking down at them at like an angle. And it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. I was happy about it. I was this episode, again, the cinematography just pinpoint great. So segueing over to the comedy, of course, Dino Fury is still good with its comedy scenes. So keeping up with the nightmares, Mucuss also had her own, I guess, kind of nightmare. It was more of a dream. It was a pleasant dream for her, where she finally got to pull the sports box, or the jukebox we see in Area 62, and it starts playing music, and lights start flashing around the base, and Voynich comes out and is like, "Mucuss, what did you do? You're now the coolest person in the universe." And Mucuss starts dancing, and it summons some henchmen, and they start dancing too. And I like that. That was just, it was funny. It was cute. It was funny. I enjoyed it so much. It put a big smile on my face. And even after that, we see that Mucuss actually had her hand on the lever to the jukebox and was about to pull it, looked like. But Slither stops her. And again, like I mentioned before, in the episode with the stone triplets, I love when we have that bit of camaraderie, between the villains, because it makes them feel like more three-dimensional. It makes them feel like actual people with depth to them. And yeah, so Slither going the extra mile of stopping his best buddy from pulling that lever and making Void Knight mad was great. do want to circle back to Ion's flashback of the moments where the ancient Rangers and Zado and Ion were in the base. There's this, you can see in the background that the henchmen are there. They're working for them. They're doing their thing. And we know that the henchmen are loyal to whoever has the henchman Dino key. Whoever activates them through that, they're right there with you, right there, right? Solon's gonna give it to Amelia and Ollie in the first episode to activate against Void Knight. Void Knight retrieved it instead, activated it, and now that's how we have the Henchmen versus the Rangers as the designated henchmen for this season. So it was really weird that once we switched to the Ultrazord footage, there's a panning shot showing the battlefield and a whole bunch of henchmen facing the Rangers Ultrazord, like they're about to engage in a fight. And then we have to also see the sports behind the henchmen getting ready for the fight as well. I mean, I understand that it's probably some sort of continuity thing between Ryu's soldier footage and Dino Fury kind of clashing with their kind of strategy for the henchmen. But yeah, I just thought it was weird. I don't know how easy it would be to kind of just airbrush the henchmen out of that scene. But yeah, I just thought it was a little weird. Not negative per se, just a little bit of a weird thing to do. But yeah, keep it to the comedy. So when Zado gets back to Earth to help the Rangers fight against Boom Tower says, "So, 5 against 1, eh?" And mucuss is like, "Hey, it's 5 against 1.5. I thought that was cute, but what really sold me on it was when Zeta retorted with, "Aw, you tell him, mucuss." And I'm like, oh, I like it when they mess with mucuss like that, because mucuss isn't really a threat, and it just, she's adorable. Like, I really do hope that she ends up surviving all of this and turns over a new leaf. And then another thing I liked about this fight was that there were actual explosions, like real on-set explosions, in front of and behind the Rangers. But let me explain why that is real quick. So the plan here, Void Knight's plan here, was that when he revived Boom Tower using Regal from the Halloween Lord Zed episode, he freed Regal and used Regal to revive Boom Tower for his for Regal's freedom. He gave Boom Tower some new new cannonballs. The cannonballs, when they get broken in half, they release a gas. That gas explodes with any sort of spark, which, this is Power Rangers, anytime the Rangers hit something, there's gonna be a spark. When the Rangers activate a boost key, there's gonna be a spark. And like, that's such a good plan, and that's what creates those explosions, and it gives the Rangers some trouble because they don't really know, what's causing these explosions. It takes them a minute to actually put 2 and 2 together, and even I didn't know. I thought some way the cannonballs were replicating the energy from the Rangers' weapons and from the explosions behind them when they pose. I didn't think it was actually releasing a gas that would get ignited by the sparks and the energy that the Rangers released. Like, that's incredibly smart. Like, if anything, Void Knight in this season has proven himself to be incredibly smart and resourceful, as has Slider. Like, Void Knight hasn't, for me at least, Void Knight hasn't really sold himself as being this all-powerful villain, and maybe he's not supposed to. It does seem like Lord Zed might be the season 2 villain. Maybe Void Knight's role isn't really to be the all-powerful villain, but rather the smart one who's just there to wake up Santara and do whatever he needs to get her up. But yeah, he hasn't really sold me on him being super powerful, but he has sold me on himself being smart and resourceful, and I appreciate that. He can still fight though, and he can still fight. I'm not saying he can't fight, because we've seen him fight. We just haven't seen him fight all 5 Rangers or all 6 Rangers yet. They still need to sell me on that part, that he can take them all on without any serious issues. So after after Ion gets back and they end up fighting Boom Tower with the Shadow Key, well, Ion activates the Shadow Battle Armor, and then he uses the Black Hole powers to kind of suck up the cannonballs. So Boom Tower grows big. Ion ends up summoning the Mucuss and the Shadow Raptor Zord to form the Mucuss Shadow Zord, which is a pretty cool Megazord combination. I dig it. So they use that with the Dino Fury Megazord Warrior formation to end up beating Boom Tower in a very nice fight. I enjoyed that Megazord fight. Then once they beat Boom Tower, that's when Dr. Arcana, that's when Sola ends up calling them back to Dino Henge to tell them, yo, Void Knight stole the Dr. Arcana's gear. One more thing I want to mention is that when Dr. Arcana is showing the Rangers, the how like she can harness the energy from the morphin grid in that conductor. Ollie is changing his voice. Like he changed his voice throughout the episode whenever he was near Dr. Arcana, which it was a nice touch, a nice bit of continuity. Like I didn't think he would do that. At first I thought, who in the world is talking? I don't see anyone else in that cast, and I realized, oh, it's Ollie. He's changing his voice again. Like that's really smart. We haven't seen that since episode 1 or episode 2. We haven't seen that since episode 2. And like he even slips up when Dr. Arcana's capacitor starts malfunctioning. Ollie slips up and he talks in his regular voice. Then he catches himself and goes back into like the deeper disguised voice. And I thought, yeah, this is clever. Like that was very well written, a nice little bit of continuity. So props on that. But I didn't understand why the Rangers waited a whole entire day to actually dig up the dino keys. Like that seemed very weird. Like we saw in the previous episode where it just kind of ended that they found the dino keys. Like it was still the middle of the day. Why not dig at that point in time? That seemed really weird not to do that. Like why go to sleep, then call Dr. Arcana back to do all this stuff? Like it didn't make any sense. Again, not a negative for me, but just something it didn't make any sense to me. But overall, this was a phenomenal episode. Like, I loved every single bit of it. Again, funny, choreography was on point, cinematography was great, it was funny. We got to see more Dr. Arcana. She even got to help out, even if she also helped out Void Knight inadvertently. But this episode gets 2 thumbs up for me. That leads us to today's question of the week, which is, what are they going to do with the light key? Like, we know that the shadow key, is able to form black holes or open black holes. Meanwhile, the light key can lift curses. Why would they need that? Why would they highlight and need that ability? Like, who? We don't know anyone that's cursed. I mean, maybe it's Void Knight, but I hesitate to say that Void Knight is cursed just because he seems to be 100% in control of his actions. He seems to be 100% aware of what's going on and what he's doing. My man's able to form cognizant plans. He's not necessarily out to kill anyone or dominate the earth. He honestly just wants to get whatever energy source he can to revive Santara. Like he's mentioned energy sources multiple times. He doesn't really need the Sporks themselves if he has an energy source that could accomplish the same goal of powering up that jukebox device. He even mentions in this episode, I can use the power from the when he's talking to Santara, he mentions that, I can use the power from the morphin grid. I don't even need the Sporks to revive you. And it's like, I don't think he's cursed. It's interesting. What are they going to use that thing for? But that's really all I have for today's review. If you've seen the episode, let me know what y'all think about it in the comments section below. Until next time, as always, thank you for watching. Get vaccinated if you can. Wear that mask while you're around other people. Be safe. Have a good night, and I'll see you in the next one. Next one is the season finale, and then after that we have our Christmas themed episode. So we're gonna see how this wraps up, at least for season 1. Until next time, peace.